Link TV, connecting you to the world. Link TV is viewer supported. Watch more at linktv.org.
Link TV presents Mosaic World News from the Middle East. Here are today's top stories.
Violence escalates along Gaza-Israel border. UN warns 3 million at risk if Sudan referendum sparks violence. And World Bank freezes Ivory Coast financing. Mosaic World News from the Middle East begins now.
Residents of the Gaza Strip are once again caught in the crossfire of Israeli airstrikes and Palestinian rocket attacks. The security situation, which has been deteriorating for days, is likely to get worse. The Israeli Army's Chief of Staff, Gabi Ashkenazi, revealed that an advanced Russian-made anti-tank missile was used by Palestinians this month, showing how advanced weapons are becoming in the Gaza Strip. Ashkenazi's remarks didn't trigger any reaction from Hamas or other Palestinian factions. Our correspondent Bassam Al-Madhoun reports from Gaza.
In Gaza, the scene is the same, but the timing and conditions are different. While the Israeli government continues to look for ways to help secure its settlements, Palestinians said they are exercising their right of resistance against the occupation. Over the past 48 hours, Israeli warplanes have conducted a series of dramatic airstrikes against the Gaza Strip. The assault was carried out on the order of the Israeli Army's Chief of Staff, Gabi Ashkenazi, an order that may put Gaza once again in bloody turmoil.
This escalation by Israel on the ground and in the air aims to lure Palestinians into hostility, as Palestinians will not remain silent in the face of these incursions. Israel wants to justify any action that may be carried out, such as the launch of a wide-scale offensive in the Gaza Strip. This way, Israel will be able to redraw the political equation and divert attention from the issue of a settlement freeze.
Since the latest Israeli war on Gaza ended, the launch of Palestinian rockets toward Israeli settlements along the Gaza border has not let up. More than 200 rockets have been fired since the war ended, with the level of intensity rapidly gaining momentum over the past few days.
The Palestinian resistance is justified to use any method deemed necessary to counter the occupation's crimes. Israel must pay for its crimes, attacks and acts of aggression.
The Hamas-led government in Gaza is living in a state of despair fueled by international isolation and national division. Meanwhile, Gaza residents are living on the edge of uncertainty due to fear of a new escalation, especially as many are still haunted by the previous war. Bassam Al-Madhoun, Dubai TV, Gaza.
Joining us now in the studio is Jerusalem Post military affairs correspondent Yaakov Katz. Yaakov, good evening.
Good evening.
Now, there have been continual flare-ups along with Gaza and one war, as you well know, since the 2005 Israeli disengagement from the area. How serious is this current situation in your view?
I think it's pretty serious. What we've seen is intensifying and escalating rocket fire, mortar attacks, and attacks mostly along the border. The Cornet anti-tank missile attack against an Israeli Merkava tank 2 weeks ago. So they're focusing at the moment, their attacks on the border have yet to start to fire deeper into the Israeli home front, like the rocket attacks that we saw before Operation Cast Lead in 2008. It could quickly escalate, though, depending on Israel's response. And all we need, as General Ashkenazi said at the Knesset the other day, is one rocket that lands next to a kindergarten or on top of a kindergarten, causing larger numbers of casualties, and that would force Israel's hand to respond more aggressively.
Now, how would you estimate the military readiness of Hamas for another large-scale conflict with Israel? And for that matter, do you believe that the IDF is prepared for another war?
I'll start with the second part of the question. I think that the IDF is definitely prepared. I think that the military has learned its lessons from Operation Cast Lead, which I think also was a victory for Israel in the sense that it restored a quiet that's unprecedented along the border with the Gaza Strip for the past 2 years. Now it's beginning to erode with the escalation, but there were 2 years of quiet that the residents of the South never had. With regards to Hamas, Hamas has invested its resources in the past 2 years into two parallel but different tracks. The first track is the underground infrastructure, bunkers, tunnels, safe houses, that they're still working to complete the renovation of. A lot of it was destroyed by the IDF. They also invested heavily in obtaining new advanced weaponry, such as the Cornet anti-tank missile you mentioned earlier, and long-range rockets that can penetrate Tel Aviv, like the Iranian Fajr 5. Those they've already obtained. And that's partly why there's this escalation. They have new equipment, new hardware, they want to test it out. They're getting a little edgy, they haven't fought for 2 years, and they want a little action.
Now, you mentioned that lessons were learned by the IDF in Operation Cast Lead. Would the IDF's military strategy be altered in any way as a result from the scathing criticism directed at Israel by the Goldstone report?
As a matter of fact, this week, the IDF, together with the Coordinator of Government Activities in the Territories, COGAT, completed the first course to train what are called humanitarian liaison officers, or population liaison officers. Every battalion, every brigade is going to have an extra officer in their command, which will, his or her job will be to assist the battalion or brigade commander in taking into consideration all of the different effects that the operation will have on the population, to leave roads open so residents can evacuate, not to bomb United Nations facilities, not to bomb schools. So they will assist the commanders who are on the ground, who are usually occupied just with the fighting, and also taking into consideration all of the effects that their fighting could have, and hopefully minimizing the potential damage like we saw in the Goldstone report last time.
We now turn to a hot topic, Sudan's referendum, which is soon to be voted on. The Sudan People's Liberation Movement, SPLM, called on the ruling National Congress Party, NCP, to submit what it referred to as a new constitutional offer if the NCP wants to achieve unity between the North and South in the time that is left. The offer entails the NCP's acceptance of a rotating presidency, the Sudan People's Liberation Army, SPLA, remaining independent without merging with the Sudanese army in case of unity, and making new arrangements in wealth sharing to benefit southern Sudan.
The central government, the National Congress Party, should change its policies by 25 hours before the referendum, but it should provide a new constitutional offer to southern Sudan. It should let people know that it will accept the rotating presidency, accept the existence of the People's Liberation Army, even in unity, and accept new arrangements and wealth sharing to benefit the people of southern Sudan.
Meanwhile, a report by the United Nations warned that about 3 million people may be displaced in Sudan if military conflicts break out after the referendum on the South's fate, which is scheduled to take place next month. Tens of thousands of Southerners have returned from the North to the South after years of forced displacements due to the civil war.
كلما اقترب السودان يوما من موعد استفتاء الجنوب كلما ارتفعت وتيرة القلق من تداعياته.
As each day passes, the date of southern Sudan's referendum comes closer and raises more concerns about its repercussions. The United Nations talked with specific figures and warned of the possibility of 2,800,000 people being displaced if military confrontations break out after the referendum. The UN report said Sudan is facing the dangers of violent conflicts similar to a full-on war if the North or the South does not accept the result of the referendum. The report said Sudanese army forces and SPLM forces have deployed troops to their bases by the north-south border throughout the last several months. It added that many southern residents possess rifles and light weapons. But the UN's warning did not stop here. The report also said that the deterioration of the relationship between the two sides, as well as local tensions in both parts of the country, may lead to a wide-scale immigration of Sudanese people to neighboring countries.
If the referendum result is rejected, it will provoke the people who expected its result, be it secession or unity. Also, we keep stressing the point that the requirements for the referendum are for it to be free, fair, and transparent, so that its result convinces all people, first in the south, then in all of Sudan domestically and internationally.
But
the UN is not the only one concerned about the ramifications of the referendum. The Regional Quartet Summit held Tuesday in Khartoum called for a peaceful referendum to avoid more conflicts and war. The summit called for calm no matter what the result of the referendum will be. Before that, the White House sent letters to the European Union and the countries that neighbor Sudan, calling for them to respect the result of the referendum. Even though tens of thousands of Southerners have returned to southern Sudan after years of forced displacement in the north due to the Civil War, January 9th remains a date that will confirm if these concerns are necessary or not.
The World Bank has frozen financing for the Ivory Coast as a result of the political unrest witnessed in the West African country. The decision coincides with UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's accusation that the ruling government is inciting violence against the international peacekeeping forces.
In addition,
We have also discussed with President Amadou Toumani Touré about coordinating action between the central banks and the West African Economic Union to freeze the loans, which they have done. They are also convening a meeting of ministers to affirm this approach.
As if nothing happened, members of the new government appointed by outgoing President Laurent Gbagbo converged for a meeting. As for Gbagbo, he insisted on holding President-elect Alassane Ouattara's camp completely responsible for the events taking place in the country.
The problems we are facing come from the other camp. I hold them completely responsible for the killings, the looting, and the destruction because elements working inside and outside the country decided to challenge the law.
However, Gbagbo once again confirmed his readiness to hold a dialogue with his rival, Alassane Ouattara, and an international organization that backs Ouattara in order to put an end to the crisis. This willingness reassured most citizens.
We can't live this way. They must talk so they can completely put an end to this crisis, in order for us to live normally.
And while UN peacekeeping forces are patrolling some city streets, the international organization is passing through a difficult phase in the country, as Gbagbo is accusing it of bias in favor of his rival. But the organization confirms that it backs the elected president and condemns what it calls incitement against it.
the State Broadcasting Corporation.
The State Broadcasting Corporation is being used to incite violence against UN elements and disseminate false information, accusing us of violating the country's sovereignty and of providing the opposition with arms.
Against our mission.
وتؤكد معلومات الأمم المتحدة أن باغبو يمتلك قوة عسكرية قوامها نحو.
According to the United Nations, Gbagbo has a 20,000-strong military force composed of soldiers, presidential guards and police, in addition to some mercenaries from Liberia, while UN peacekeeping soldiers, numbering 10,000, are stationed around the hotel in which Alassane Ouattara resides. For its part, the French government has advised its citizens to leave the country.
من جانبها أوصت الحكومة الفرنسية رعاياها بمغادرة البلاد.
Even though foreign citizens are not under threat right now, it's important to take precautionary measures again and reiterate our advice to postpone trips to the Ivory Coast. In addition, we advise all French citizens to temporarily leave the country if they are able to do so.
وعلى هذا المنوال يواصل باغبو تحديه للمجتمع الدولي بإصراره على الاستمرار في.
On this note, Gbagbo continues his defiance of the international community by insisting on holding on to his position and refusing to recognize the result of the latest presidential elections as validated by the Independent Electoral Commission. This could push the country to witness additional violence in the coming phase. Ikab El Alfi, BBC.
The Iraqi parliament, which gave the new government formed by Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki a vote of confidence by an absolute majority, received local and international praise. Meanwhile, Iraqi authorities increased security measures, especially in the capital, Baghdad.
The formation of the new Iraqi government and its approval by parliament was welcomed and met with international and local relief. Here are some of the reactions generated in Iraq.
The Iraqi people are happy with the accomplishment achieved by the Iraqi political parties in forming a national unity government.
God willing, Nouri al-Maliki will change things, and God willing, he will accomplish good things and fulfill the wishes of the people, the oppressed people.
The authorities increased security measures in the capital of Baghdad. Policemen were deployed across the city's streets in order to monitor all suspicious activities and be ready in case of an emergency or acts of terror targeting internal security. Iraqi citizens confirmed the need for members of the new government to make decisions that would offer the people additional services without taking into consideration sectarian and partisan factors, in addition to eliminating corruption.
I ask the new ministers to eliminate corruption and the corrupt, who are responsible for the destruction of Iraq. Once corruption is eliminated, God willing, Iraq will be rebuilt and things will be good.
We hope that the appointed ministers serve the people and not their sect or political party.
On the international arena, the United States congratulated Iraq on the formation of the new government through President Barack Obama, who promised to continue building what he referred to as a strong partnership with Baghdad. He said that the Iraqi people and their elected representatives have proven their commitment to work within the framework of a democratic process to resolve their disputes and form Iraq's future. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon welcomed the new Iraqi government, saying it was a major step forward in the democratic progress. He commended the Iraqi officials' coordinated efforts to make sure that the new government is comprehensive, with a wide participation, and has the support of the Iraqi people. Ki-moon affirmed that the UN delegation to Iraq will continue supporting its people and government in order to build a prosperous and peaceful country. The European Union expressed its opinion on this matter through its foreign policy chief, Catherine Ashton, who welcomed the end to the political deadlock. She urged the new government, headed by Nouri al-Maliki, to work for establishing stability and achieving economic development and regional cooperation.
Meanwhile, on the ground, a bomb attached to the car of a senior official at the Ministry of Health exploded, wounding the official seriously in the Dura district of southern Baghdad. Elsewhere, Iraqi Interior Ministry sources said gunmen killed one Iraqi soldier and wounded 3 others when they attacked a military checkpoint near the Alawi area in central Baghdad. Foreign ministers from Azerbaijan, Pakistan, Afghanistan and Iran are meeting in Turkey for the 19th Council of Ministers meeting of Economic Cooperation of Organization, ECO, which opened in Istanbul yesterday. Iran's newly appointed interim foreign minister, Ali Akbar Salehi, said upon handing over Iran's ECO chairmanship to Turkey that the meeting is a viable platform for regional cooperation with very promising potential. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was also scheduled to arrive in Istanbul today to attend the ECO summit tomorrow, likely to become a venue for exchanging views between the Iranian delegation and Turkish officials ahead of nuclear talks. Turkish Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoglu reviewed his country's efforts to resolve regional problems, including Iran's disputed nuclear program. Turkey will host the second round of nuclear talks between Iran and the 6 world powers at the end of next month, following a meeting in Geneva. Tomorrow's summit is expected to be a venue for the Iranian delegation and Turkish officials to exchange views ahead of the nuclear talks.
Turkey pursues a multifaceted, proactive, constructive and vision-oriented foreign policy. We aim to contribute to the improvement of security, stability and welfare both in our close neighborhood and beyond. In line with our aim of establishing a beltway of peace, security and stability in our neighborhood, we are actively working towards facilitating the opening of channels of dialogue between countries in our region.
Iran's caretaker foreign minister, Dr. Ali Akbar Salehi, is in Turkey for the ministerial meeting of the Economic Cooperation Organization, the ECO. Salehi has stressed that the ECO must turn into a significant and effective regional organization through developing cooperation. He also said that Tehran will do its best to help the economic growth of the organization's member states. ECO's 11th summit will convene on Thursday. Iran's President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad has left Tehran to attend the meeting. Participants will discuss, among other things, ways to boost trade and investment during the two-day gathering.
The United States has imposed fresh unilateral sanctions on several Iranian companies. The move comes ahead of the upcoming talks between Tehran and the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council plus Germany, known as the P5+1. Here's more on that story.
As many of you noted in your statements, no single sanction alone is a silver bullet. We will need to impose measures simultaneously in many different...
The U.S. has decided to impose yet another set of unilateral sanctions against Iran. This time, Washington is targeting 5 Iranian firms, including 2 banks, an insurance company, and a local shipping line. The measure also targets a former Iranian energy minister. Washington's latest move against the Islamic Republic comes against the backdrop of recent talks between Tehran and P5+1 in Geneva, and an agreement to hold further talks in Turkey next month, and possibly in Brazil afterwards. The announcement of new sanctions also comes only days after Iran called on the West to change its policy of confrontation to one of cooperation instead. Experts say that Tehran has decided to take a softer approach in negotiations with P5+1.
The result of the recent negotiations was to continue the talks, and we brand it as a positive approach.
Analysts argue that Washington's latest sanctions are a step in the wrong direction. Experts say Washington's hostility towards Tehran is benefiting neither side. Analysts point that the only non-party profiting politically in this scenario is Tel Aviv, raising questions about the depth of Zionist lobby in Washington.
The only logic that I can see to it is it's motivated by the Israeli lobby in the United States Congress and the cowardly attitude of the Obama administration. And it's unfair. It is grossly unfair to single out Iran for this kind of treatment.
The Iranian government for long has called for the international community to play fair when it comes to its nuclear issue. Tehran has maintained that the West is hypocritical and singles out its nuclear program unfairly by imposing illegal sanctions. The Islamic Republic has always maintained that its program is for energy needs and peaceful purposes only.
حذرت نقابة الصيادلة في المغرب من رواج كميات كبيرة من الأدوية التالفة ومنتهية الصلاحية.
The Pharmacists Association in Morocco warned of a large quantity of tainted and expired medicine smuggled through some European passageways. While disposing of these drugs causes major losses to the Moroccan economy, human rights groups warn that certain parties are exploiting some citizens who have limited incomes and selling them tainted drugs at low prices. Siham Al-Zayadi has the details.
سهام الزيادي والتفاصيل.
More than 30% of the medicines on the Moroccan market are fake. These drugs are threatening the lives of many Moroccans. These drugs have no healing effects and do not meet international pharmaceutical standards. They are illegally smuggled into Morocco through border areas in the east or the 2 occupied cities, Ceuta and Melilla.
أو عبر مدينتي سبتة ومليليا المحتلتين.
المخاطر ديال هذه الأدوية بالأساس هو كونها أنها تنتقل إلى الأسواق الأسبوعية لفوق.
Basically, these drugs are dangerous because they're smuggled into weekly markets in the backs of cattle. This means the drugs are exposed to the sun. These materials are unsuitable for human digestion and, furthermore, they contain toxic elements that pose a danger to the human body.
وبالتالي تصبح سامة مما يشكل خطر على حياة الإنسان.
ورغم أن 70% من هذه الأدوية ذي معايير.
Even though 70% of these drugs do not meet any medical standards or have any healing effects at all, there is an increasing demand for them in Moroccan markets, especially from people with limited incomes. For them, the most important thing about these drugs is the cheap price and the easy access to them. This affects the Moroccan economy negatively and causes millions of dollars of losses.
هذا النوع من التجارة إذا أردنا أن نسمي تجاوزا أن نسميها تجارة.
This kind of trade, if we want to call it trade, is firstly an illegal business that affects citizens and threatens their health. Secondly, it affects a large sector of the medical industry, including the pharmacies.
بقطاع واسع من الممارسين بشكل منظم وبشكل قانوني ألا وهم الصيادلة.
الظاهرة وإن شدت انتباه المنظمات والهيئات.
Despite the warnings public health institutions have sent out about the dangers of this phenomenon, the fake medicines are still widespread and harming many people's lives. This is due to the lack of monitoring of the healthcare system, the lack of strict security measures in the border areas, the rampant phenomena of bribery, and the lack of strict penalties on the mafia who conducts this trade. Every illness has its medicine, but here, the medicine itself seems to be an illness. This calls for an urgent intervention from the authorities to put an end to this phenomenon which threatens the health of citizens. From Sharqiya News, Siham Al-Zayadi, Rabat.
The views expressed on Mosaic are from contributing broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. The production of Mosaic is made possible by grants from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, the Firedoll Foundation, and by support of viewers like you. Thank you. Watch Mosaic World News online. Stay up to date with breaking news, read our blog, get transcripts of past shows and more at linktv.org/mosaic.
This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.